Welcome to the Vegas Insider channel here on YouTube as we have reached championship weekend in college football. 3 games on Friday, 7 on Saturday to determine these conference champions. Kevin Rogers and Brian Edwards with you as we take a look at each of these games, and we're going to roll right through them. Brian, let's begin with the trio on Friday. And the first game, Conference USA Championship, a battle of green. It's Marshall and UAB hooking up in Huntington.
Yeah, so Marshall coming off the shocking loss to Rice when Rice was missing Mike Collins, its best, starting quarterback, about a 10-to-1 TDI-INT ratio. They go into Huntington and win by 20 as a 24.5-point underdog. But other than that game, Marshall has been super impressive, and they were -4 in turnover margin that game. Their QB Wells threw 5 picks, which was uncharacteristic. He's got a 16-to-7 TDI-INT ratio for the year, so he obviously was not throwing picks in the first 7 games. They've had a week off. Now, UAB was off for a month and then had to rally to win at Rice last week, but they were really low on scholarship numbers. Kind of hard to tell if they're going to get guys back this week because the injury report isn't really divulging, a whole lot. So I'm not saying it'll be in my pick pack, but I lean Marshall minus the 5 or 5.5.
In the second game on Friday, the MAC title game in Detroit at Ford Field. Pretty good matchup. Ball State and Buffalo. The Bulls undefeated at 5-0, and they're nearly 2 touchdown favorites against the Cardinals.
Yeah, I like Buffalo here, and I am smelling a blowout. Jarrett Patterson, the running back for the Bulls, has just been incredible this season. Obviously, Buffalo has not played many games, but their 5 games they've won by margins of 19, 25, 32, 29, and 49. They've got the number one, or they lead the nation in rushing offense. Patterson, 18 touchdowns, 8.3 yards per carry average, and he really could have padded those stats even more, but he's got a really good backup running back too, and Kevin Marks, who's got 510 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns, 7.5 yards per carry average. And if Ball State just stuffs the box to stop them, they can throw it to Kyle Van Treese, 6-to-1 TDI-INT ratio, and he can make plays with his legs as well. I think Buffalo puts it on Ball State minus the 13.5. I would like it up to 14. If it gets to 14.5, buy the hook at 14. I don't know that I'd like it at 15, but we don't have to worry about that right now.
And the third game coming up on Friday night, the LA Coliseum, the Pac-12 title game. Originally Washington and USC. The Trojans were a 7-point favorite in that game, but Washington had to pull out due to COVID issues. So in comes the Oregon Ducks. And Oregon, a short dog, just a 3-point dog against the Trojans.
Yeah, Oregon, I don't know what's wrong with Oregon right now. Back-to-back L's, -13 at Oregon State, and then they're -9 at Cal, and they lose outright. So it seems a little light on the number at 3.5. So I definitely lean to the Trojans in that one.
Now let's look ahead to Saturday, 7 games as far as title games are concerned. And we'll start with the biggest favorite on the board, the Ohio State Buckeyes, thanks to the Big Ten getting an exception to play in this game in spite of a 5-0 record as they take on the Northwestern Wildcats at 6-1. Pat Fitzgerald's team, a solid campaign, stumbled at the end against Michigan State, but the Buckeyes here are 3-touchdown favorite, Brian.
Yeah, I don't know that I want to lay the 20.5, but I know that if the first quarter line is 7 or fewer, I would like the Buckeyes. If the first half line is 14 or fewer, I would like the Buckeyes there. I'm not even sure if those spreads are out yet, but that would be all I would be looking for there. If Ohio State -7 or fewer in the first quarter or -14 or fewer in the first half, I would think Buckeyes there on those.
A really good matchup in Arlington, the Big 12 title game. Oklahoma back, and they're taking on Iowa State, who has never played in a Big 12 title game. So we'll see what the Cyclones can do. They beat the Sooners earlier this season as Oklahoma, a 5.5-point favorite over ISU.
Yeah, so under Matt Campbell, Iowa State has been an underdog 31 times, whether home, away, or neutral, and they are 20, 10, and 1 against the spread in those 31 underdog spots. The Cyclones have won 5 in a row, 4 and 1 against the spread in that stretch. Brees Hall having a just terrific season, 17 touchdowns, 1,357 yards, 6.1 yards per carry. The last 3 games, Brock Purdy has had 7 touchdowns without an interception. Now, OU does have the number 4 run D in America, which kind of surprised me to see that. But Hall did go for 139, 2 touchdowns, 28 carries. Last game, I just think we're going to get a nip and tuck, tight game like their regular season meeting. And with that being the case, I'll go the Cyclones catching 5 or 5.5 as we're recording this on Tuesday.
In the Sun Belt title game, this is a really good matchup. In fact, Louisiana Lafayette at 9-1 taking on Coastal Carolina off an 11-0 season. They had the big victory over BYU 2 weeks ago, and the Chanticleers are in their first ever Sun Belt title game, but also a revenge spot for Lafayette, who their only loss came to Coastal earlier this season, as Coastal comes in a 3.5-point favorite.
Yeah, so Grayson McCall, what a season for Coastal, 23-2 TDI and T ratio, also 473 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns. I mean, their defense looked dynamite against BYU. They didn't cover last week, but they survived like the ultimate sandwich spot. You know, you're looking ahead, and you're coming off that just thrilling win to BYU, and where, you know, their name was in lights, so to speak, there for 3 or 4 days. And then, you know, obviously looking ahead to this rematch, and they survive a sandwich spot on the road at Troy. So, man, this game is a complete pass for me. I like both of these teams in general. I like both these teams a lot, not looking to fade either one. Under Napier, Louisiana, their last 10 as a road underdog, they are 7-2 and 1 against the spread. Levi Lewis's numbers are not as pretty as Grayson McCall's, but he is a hell of a quarterback. This is going to be a great game. I got no opinion on this one, man. I'm on the sidelines.
The ACC title game in Charlotte, another revenge spot here, this time for the Clemson Tigers, who lost in overtime at Notre Dame in South Bend without Trevor Lawrence. And now the Tigers, a 10.5-point favorite against the undefeated Fighting Irish.
Yeah, you know, when the line was originally out, I believe it was from DraftKings or maybe it was FanDuel like a week ago, and it was like 7 or 7.5. I was, you know, kind of thinking if it's Clemson 7 or less, I was thinking maybe I kind of lean Clemson. But now that it's spiked up to double digits, this Notre Dame team has grown on me as the year has progressed. They really, more so the win over Clemson, they really impressed me. With the way they handled Boston College, especially after handing them a couple of fumbles early. And I'm leaning Notre Dame. I don't know the positive that I'm going to play it. It certainly won't be a huge play for me amount-wise, but I'm kind of leaning Notre Dame if it's north of 10.
In the other 4 o'clock Eastern game on Saturday, the Mountain West title game, kind of a funky setup here. It's Boise State and San Jose State. And San Jose State, one of the top stories in college football this year, 6-0 in their first ever Mountain West title game. But the game is being played in Nevada since it got kicked out of the Bay Area. And the Spartans here are around a touchdown underdog here against the Broncos, who have had plenty of experience in the Mountain West title game.
Yeah, San Jose State is a great story. I mean, not only are they 6-0 straight up, but they're 5-0-1 against the spread. They've won every game by double-digit margins. They were down 20-7 midway through the second quarter last week. I wasn't even watching the game, but I noticed that, and I got a little in-game at plus 300 on the money line and plus 10.5. And not only they come back and win, they win by double digits. And what a story Nick Starkel is. He Couldn't cut it at A&M or even Arkansas. And actually, San Jose State went into Arkansas last year, and Starkel was the starter, and he threw 5 picks, and San Jose State won outright. But he ends up transferring to San Jose State, a 13-4 TDI&T ratio, and a real redemption year for him on what's been an extremely up and down career. I'd lean San Jose State here. I would want to buy the hook at the half point of 7 as it's plus 6.5 right now, but I may be on the Spartans. That's my lean for sure.
2 games left in the night action, the American Championship game. Tulsa and Cincinnati were supposed to hook up last week, but due to COVID issues with the Bearcats, that game got nixed. So now they'll play again, this time for the conference title. In Cincinnati, a great season at 8-0. Tulsa's played well too. They started the loss to Oklahoma State, but they've won 6 in a row, had a couple lucky breaks across the way. But the Bearcats here, 14 and a half, even creeping up to 15-point favorite at home against Tulsa.
Yeah, so until the game against UCF down in Orlando a couple weeks ago, Cincy had won every game by 14 or more. But, now they've had those COVID issues, but the injury reports aren't telling us anything. So I feel like I need some more information, and maybe that'll become available later in the week. But, I just I don't know what Cincy's roster looks like, with all the potential COVID absences. So that just kind of scares me. I will just throw out the stat that Tulsa's 8-2 against the spread their last 10 as an underdog, and 2-0 against the spread as a dog this year. Yeah, their only loss was at Oklahoma State to start the year, and they could have won that game. They had a couple of trips deep into OSU territory, but they got nothing. And they've got a solid D, but just a pass right now. Too many uncertainties for me with COVID-wise.
And the final game to look at, the SEC title game in Atlanta. It's Alabama and Florida. The Crimson Tide, who have just been dominant the entire season at 10-0. The Gators come in at 8-2. Tough loss at the end to LSU as a big home favorite last Saturday, but Florida still in this game. 10th time that the Crimson Tide and Gators are facing off in the SEC championship, and we'll find out who wins the Heisman after this game. Mac Jones for Alabama, Kyle Trask for Florida, Devontae Smith for Alabama, all guys up there to win the Heisman. But as far as the game goes, the Crimson Tide right now a 17-point favorite, Brian.
Yeah, Alabama has just been really, really, really nasty this year. And they've covered 7 in a row, 10-0 straight up, 8-2 against the spread. Their closest games, and look, they didn't have any non-conference, obviously, 10 SEC games. Their closest games, 15 at Ole Miss. That game's kind of a misleading final, though. But then the rest, 17 to Georgia and 19 to Missouri, and that's a misleading final the other way. Missouri scored on the last play of the game, and Saban, he yanked Mac Jones and Najee and Devontae, and that was when Waddle was healthy. He yanked all those guys mid-third quarter. So, I mean, they've just absolutely stomped everybody except for Georgia and Ole Miss. But I think Florida's better than Georgia and Ole Miss. And look, even if Alabama gets ahead of the number, the back door is going to be open. We know Florida can score. Other than the A&M game, losing by 3, obviously on the road, and they had a double-digit lead in the second half. Other than that, Florida won every game all year, or it won 8 games by 12 points or more. Last week, no Pitts, no Sean Davis, starting safety, no Jeremiah Moon. Those guys are all expected to play this week. And I think that Florida's even maybe a little more dangerous after losing, and certainly with number 84, Kyle Pitts, back in the lineup. And even if I think Alabama's going to score as many as they want, but I think Florida can score a lot on Bama as well. And again, if they get behind the number, the back door will still be open. I'm going to go with the Gators. I'm also going to go with the over. I know it's a super duper high total. In fact, the highest previous total in SEC championship game history is 62, and it's in the 74 and a half range now. But I tweeted like 6 weeks ago that anything under 80 would be an overplay to me. That's not why I'm playing the over. I'm not feeling obligated to the tweet, but I just think Alabama scores as many as they want. And I think Florida is going to score 35 or so as well. And I think Florida will have more snaps and more possessions because Alabama scores fast, whereas Florida's defense allowed so many other teams to chew so much clock all year. It's limited. I think Florida would average a lot more points if not for that. So I'll go Gators in the over.
So 10 championship games coming up Friday and Saturday. You heard the analysis there from Brian Edwards, and we're looking forward to it. And then we'll have the bowl season, and hopefully we don't have a lot of cancellations. So we'll see how that one goes. For Brian Edwards, I'm Kevin Rogers. Thanks a lot for watching, and best of luck with your bets.